man, we got the Baltimore Ravens versus the New England Patriots. Two teams, in my opinion, going in completely different directions. Look, my thing with Baltimore, I've been criticizing them a little bit. I mean, Brad, you and me both agree that Baltimore's a top 5 team, or at worst, a top 5 team in the league, I think. At least I think that. I'm earlier on selling my Patriots stock than everybody else. I just don't believe that Cam Newton can get it done. He came out.
Yeah, I'm coming on. I'm bored with that.
Yeah,
to be honest,
Cam Newton, man, he's just not the on the field leader. And let me say this:
he's not, and his body language is poor. I don't know if anyone else sees that, but he just right.
When you're a quarterback, that stuff matters.
It does. It does matter, right? You're leading the squad, and he's not the general, man. He looks like he's pressing and trying, and like it's not a lot of fun, right?
It's a lot of bravado. Like he's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but it's like he's not Tom Brady, you know. And I'm not gonna the Patriots are never gonna get Tom Brady back. But what I think everybody, me included, I won't throw you in this mix, but like we say Bill Belichick is the greatest tactician and all that stuff. But what I started seeing the last couple of weeks, going away from that, and I said, you got to believe in the Patriots, yada, yada. They always, especially when they're underdogs, blah, blah, blah. In the last couple of weeks with Cam Newton, there's a difference. When Cam Newton throws 2 or 3 interceptions, he kind of sulks off the field, sits on the bench, shakes his head.
I know.
Tom Brady throws 2 or 3 interceptions, he's screaming at people.
Yeah, right. It's a difference.
It is a difference, and if you're a Patriots player, or like if you're Julian Edelman, who I know has been injured, but if you're like one of these guys, like you're used to a certain.
I would say that if a quarterback throws a pick, sorry to interrupt, Sean, and he gets fired up and he's yelling and he's angry, that's more productive than despair.
Yeah.
Despair does no good for morale, and that's what Cam Newton produces, right?
Yeah, it's almost like you're holding everybody up to your same expectations. And I'm not going to say like personality one way is one or the other. I'm just going to make this point is that the Patriots are used to seeing one thing from their quarterback, and it gets it's just fired up and accountability. And the way Cam Newton is accountable is he takes it on his shoulders and he almost degrades a little bit.
He's a tool, man. He's a douchey tool, right?
But
it's all bravado and not a whole lot of substance, and that's douchey tool.
One thing, did you watch, because I know we were referencing earlier, did you watch the whole Baltimore-Indianapolis game, or did you just see highlights of it?
I just saw highlights.
Okay. Well, I noticed early in that Baltimore-Indianapolis game, and Indianapolis' defense is legit. And so I saw that. I picked Baltimore to cover, but I thought Indianapolis would do a nice job defensively because they're, Baltimore, what do they want to do? They want to run. Indianapolis is great against the run. So I thought it was going to be more of a defensive game, and that's what it was for most of the time. And I thought that Baltimore would eventually, because of their style of running is so physical, that eventually they'd be able to kill the clock and extend the lead in the fourth quarter. That ended up happening. I've been wrong about plenty, but I was right about that.
Yeah.
What I noticed early in that game, because that was one of the games I had on, and I've noticed this in times, and Lamar Jackson, his starting record, especially in the regular season, is like out of this world. It's insane.
It's like
right?
20-something and 5, isn't it?
So you're right. So he doesn't face a lot of adversity,
with
right?
Like 3 losses are to the Chiefs, right?
I know. It's insane. And the playoffs. I'm not going to hammer him too much on the playoffs, but one thing that I will say about the playoffs, they lost to the Chargers a couple years ago. They lost to the Titans last year. And what I saw in the Indianapolis game is I think he might have thrown an interception. Indianapolis was controlling that game early. They were up 7-0, but then they gave up the defensive touchdown. The Ravens defense got them back in the game. So I think it was 7-7, and maybe Lamar Jackson. Basically, the offense wasn't doing anything. But again, for me, that was like, okay, I mean, it's the Colts defense. They're really good. Just like the Baltimore's defense is really good. It's kind of on start. I saw the same thing that I've been seeing in the playoff games, and the very few times that Lamar Jackson loses a game or doesn't play well is he gets sulky. And he's just like, and I started thinking about, you watch the mic'd up, everybody probably did, the mic'd up from the Super Bowl, Kansas City. They're losing by like 15 points, like in the fourth quarter or whatever it was. And I remember Matt Moore, the backup quarterback for Kansas City, goes to Patrick Mahomes, like, okay, man, you got to believe. He's trying to pick him up. You got to believe. And Patrick Mahomes goes, hey, man, I'm believing. Of course I believe. Yeah, we'll come back, blah, blah, blah. And he just sits down, looks at his sheet, not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. You believe. Lamar Jackson doesn't have that.
Okay. Yeah. From what we've seen so far.
He gets frustrated, and I think when he gets frustrated, he degrades. And to me, that's like a young quarterback kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, too much emotion out there probably isn't great, right? And that's what we're talking about with Cam.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's exactly what I thought about when I saw it. Was like, he's kind of like Cam. He gets a little sulky when he's not playing well. And I don't think that's good for everybody.
That's one of the knocks on Rodgers, right? When the other guys aren't doing what they should, he lets them know in like a pissy kind of way. You know, like for some reason it doesn't land very well.
You're right.
Even though we all know he's right. Like we all know the guy's right. Is there
You're
anybody
right.
that doesn't think he's right? That's the odd thing of the whole deal. But it doesn't come across. It doesn't land, you know? We all kind of
It's like if you're in a relationship and the other person will let you know about it and you do something wrong, you're just like, oh gosh, I'm going to hear about this. I'm going to be hearing about this for the next 3 weeks.
I know I'm wrong.
I know.
Damn it, do I have to hear about it?
Should have asked for directions. I showed up to the party 15 minutes late. Screwed the
Yeah.
whole night and my whole month.
Yeah,
That's Aaron
and-
Rodgers. When
and
you go to the
the
sideline, is when you fumble or you drop a pass or a touchdown or something like that.
Yeah.
It is.
Even though he's spot on, we don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I should
Anyway,
have.
we got off on a tangent.
Yeah, anyway. But no, like these quarterbacks. So, I mean, here's the thing, though. If you're talking about matchup-wise, I just – look, the Patriots, I think the Patriots' strength at this point, they're defensively. We talked about matchups, right? The Patriots' strength defensively, they match up better against passing teams. They would match up to me better against a Pittsburgh, better against a Kansas City than they do against Baltimore. Baltimore is just going to punch him in the mouth repeatedly, and I think it's going to go kind of similarly but better than what happened with the Colts. They're going to punch New England in the mouth. They're going to get like 3 yards a carry for the first half, and then in the second half, they're going to get 5.5 yards per carry. And the addition of Lamar Jackson and his speed, you still can't game plan for. You can't.
Can't. Yeah.
So,
well, you know, I don't know, man, because he hasn't been as effective lately, right? There's been a dip off in production. I mean, the guy was the MVP last year, was he not?
Yeah.
So how do you live up to that every year? You probably can't, but he has been figured out a bit, and the way you do it is you make him throw.
Mm-hmm. You make him throw deep. You crash up your safeties to crash up the Mark Andrews seam route.
But here's the thing, Sean. Are the Baltimore Ravens trying to turn him into a thrower? Essentially saying, we want to keep you around, which I get, right? We want to enhance your throwing game because that's very important. But when you do that, maybe you take his uniqueness away from him because he doesn't want to play that way, possibly. Right? You see what I'm saying?
I think Lamar Jackson recognizes that he needs to improve his downfield passing. Because what happens, I say this about the Ravens all the time, is when the Ravens are playing somebody that they're not going to be able to run against and a team that has a good passing attack, then they're going to have trouble winning the game. And I tell you right now, Seattle would give Baltimore problems because Seattle's better against the run than they are passing. And Lamar Jackson at this point isn't good enough to really make people pay downfield. And Russell Wilson, even against an amazing Baltimore defense, would put up points. We saw it with Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers a couple of weeks ago. That game came down to the wire. But Pittsburgh's offense is good enough to put up 25 points and take a lead or whatever, even though they were behind in most of that game. And Kansas City, that's why Kansas City gives Baltimore problems. Mm-hmm. But a team like New England that can't really score a lot of points, they're going to bludgeon New England to death.
Yeah, right.
And every quarter, they're going to win every quarter by 3 or 4 points. So it's not going to be like something that's really like, oh, man, they're dominating. But at the end of the game, you're going to look up and they're going to have won by like 2 touchdowns. And it's not going to ever be in doubt. I think that's the kind of game this is.
I can see that.
Well, let me hit you with the line then, just since I mentioned kind of what I think will happen. Bovada has Baltimore minus 6.5 versus the Patriots. Who do you got?
I'm taking Baltimore. I like that half point that we're getting there.
Yeah, under a touchdown. I agree. Look, New England, their strength offensively is running the ball. Baltimore's defense is good enough to stop the New England run. That makes Cam Newton a passer. Baltimore's pass defense is pretty darn good too. I don't think the Patriots will be able to score much. I think New England, by the way, because this is what they do what you don't think they're going to do. They're going to probably come out and try to pass down the field against Baltimore, and I don't think it's going to go well.
Yeah, they're going to try.
They're going to try, and I think Cam Newton's going to have like 2 or 3 interceptions in this game.
Yes, right, and Belichick is going to have to rethink that whole trickery thing he likes to do.
This is, and it's going to be, and I think New England, they know from last year because Baltimore dominated New England last year, gave New England their first loss last year, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
New England has to spy Lamar Jackson, and that's that spy having that spy on the field is going to open a little bit more up in the passing game. So I think the tight ends will be a little bit more involved. I don't see it. I predict this score's 20-9. I don't think it's going to be like a crazy out of this world thing, but Baltimore covers comfortably. I said 2 touchdowns.
I'm
at
right
11.
on point with you.
Yep.
I think we've been 4 for 4 in agreement, have we not?
We have. That might be the first time all season that we agree on.
Yes, I think so.
Well, let's do some rapid fire. Just close this thing out, dude. You good with that?
Let's do it.
All right.